There has to be passion for all of them. You have to have passion for God. You have to have passion for your product or service. You have to have passion for your marriage. So when we talked about igniting your passion, I believe that is the core of every relationship, of every successful business, having passion in their life. So that's why we decided to rename the podcast.
Welcome to Ignite Your Passion podcast. My name is Vivian Velasquez.
My name is Raul Velasquez, and in this podcast, we're going to help you ignite your passion in your business, in your marriage, and in your life. Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. We rebranded the name from Got Money and Sex Podcast to
Ignite Your Passion podcast.
So we thought about this for a while, and we just didn't feel connected with
God,
money, and sex. Not that we don't have God, money, and sex in our lives. Is that, when we created the brand Got Money and Sex with the podcast about 5 years ago, it was more to shock people to really see, like, there is all the trifecta, right? If you have God in your life, if you focus on making money, and you have a great sex life, a marriage thrives.
You need all of them. That's what we were thinking about. Like we actually, like, that's what we work for. We strive for, to have like God above all things, and we want to have more sex, more passionate sex, and we want to have money, because if we don't have any of those things, then there's challenges, there's struggles. Not that you need to have in any one order, but you need all of them, in your life.
Yeah. So on the core of those three things, there has to be passion for all of them. You have to have passion for God. You have to have passion for your product and service. You have to have passion for your marriage. So when we talked about igniting your passion, I believe that is the core of every relationship, of every successful business, having passion in their life. So that's why we decided to rename the podcast Ignite Your Passion, just to bring a broader aspect of the conversation to what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, be married, how to have the passion, how to create the money that you want to make, how to keep a connection with God that is thriving, and most important, how to stay together.
I agree.
mean, it's hard out there to be married, and we hear all the time, like, how do you stay married for 25 years? How will you continue to date your wife or have date nights? The consistency.
And I think that's a big thing, right? Like, I think, like, my brand has always been Ignite Your Passion, because I think a lot of us, especially like for women, and I speak for myself, for like a really long time, I was in this place where it was like the normal, the routine, and the consistency of just doing like the norm, right? And in order for us to have that which God wants for us, we need to ignite something inside of us. And whether it's finding someone that could ignite that for you, whether it's your spouse, which is like, you do that for me so much. And then there's times that I do that for you, right? So it's like igniting something in you that allows you to have so much more in life, and whatever that is for you. Like, we are not the ones to tell you, like, this is the way that it has to be done. This is the way that we've done things, and it's working for us. Is it easy? No. It's work, but the outcome of it is just so rewarding. And, I speak for myself, like, I could lay down and I say, like, well, I give it my all. I really, like, I took the initiative to ignite something in me, whether it's to, like, show up for my kids or show up for my clients, show up for my spouse. It took work, but it felt so damn good. And I'm here for it.
But we also have to understand that doesn't happen every single day.
All the time. So, like, we're all ignited.
So, one of the reasons that we took a break from the podcast, we haven't done a podcast, I think, in the last 3 or 4 months, is because we felt more of an obligation every week to do a podcast, as opposed to being passionate about the podcast. So that's something that you have to understand, that when you feel obligated to do something and there is no passion behind it, or there is no energy that's pulling you forward, you get stagnant. And that's what happened to us with the podcast, is that every week we started just having the conversations that we have in date night anyways. Right? But then after a while, it just became the same thing, and over again. And that's when we have to step back and start looking at, okay, what's the content that we're going to create? Where are we going? And really, what's the vision? Because I think that's where a lot of marriages and a lot of businesses lack, is vision. And we talk about this all the time.
Right.
If you don't have a vision, you're never going to know where you're going to end up going.
And I think it's also like becoming intentional about it. I think, one of the reasons why also like for me, like I'll chime in why we stopped doing the podcast and this, like we're trying to rebrand it is because one, we just, we were traveling a lot. We did a lot of things over the course of the last 3 months with our kids, with ourselves. Like we celebrated so much. So I think also like, you got to give yourself that time. Like you got to step away from something that you've been doing it. And we both love the routine. We love the rituals that we have. Like we love to follow that frame. But it's also so good sometimes to step away from that and just do something completely different. Yeah. And I think for me, like it's really been like an amazing, loving, nurturing, adventurous couple of last months. And now it's like, okay, what are we here to do together again? And for me, my heart, this is a constant thing. It's like always like to come back to the beginning, and it's like, how do I serve? How do I serve? Like this means that we have right now is like, we get to speak our truth from where we are in a relationship, and then we get to share. Some of you may take it. Some of you may not. Some of you may agree with it. Some of them not, and that's okay. But this is something like, it comes from my heart. It comes from the right place of like our relationship, the things that we've struggled with, and how we have this vision of like, okay, where do we want to get to? What do we want to do?
Especially now when you start seeing all the different things that are going on in the world. We just got a new elected president. There's a lot of people in the world that don't agree with what happened. There's a lot of division going on. And I think that we have to understand that if we're going to keep this country together, if we're going to have a marriage together, like we all have to get on the same page. We have to have a vision. What's the vision for your marriage? What's the vision for this country? One of the reasons that I believe Donald Trump won the elections because he painted the vision better than Kamala. You see, when you start looking at, as a leader, who's painting the vision, who's pulling the people together, that's what a leader does, right? So when you start looking at how do I ignite my passion in my marriage, what's the vision for your marriage? I mean, we're here. We have this inner circle retreat starting today. We're in this beautiful house. We're going to spend 3 days painting the vision for 2025. Where are we going as a couple? Where are we going as an organization? Where are we going as a business? Because if you don't have a vision, if you can't share the vision with people,
right,
you're not a leader.
So to be honest, like we don't talk about politics. Like I won't talk about politics because it's kind of like a Pandora. Like you open that box and it's like you could go so many which ways. But I will tell you, like it doesn't matter who the president is. Like it doesn't really matter what Trump will do. Like I don't know what he's going to do. We have no control of where that's going to go. But what we could control is what happens between you and I. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you've gifted me with is the certainty that you bring into our household for me, for the kids, for our economy, for our peace of mind. And I don't think it would have made a difference who was elected. It doesn't matter what is going on the outside. It's what you bring into our household. And I think that's one of the most beautiful gifts that you continue to gift me with, that you paint the vision for me. And I also have to honor myself in times, and we could talk a little bit about this, is like sometimes you want to paint the vision and you do such a great job at it. And you do this on continuously basis, like we take time away, the two of us. But I also have to honor myself and tell you, like, hey, I can't take the vision for the next 10 years. I can't take the visions for the next 20 or 30 years. But let me take it in like a 5-year at a time. And I don't know if you could relate to this. Like sometimes your man comes and he paints you this vision that's like huge, that it scares you. Like it scares me. And yes, I know, like they tell you like your vision should scare you, but if it scares you too much, then you're going to run away from it. And I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to run away from the vision that we have. I want to understand it. I want to embody it, and then I want to put like a plan into action. But if I don't make it mine, then I won't be there with you. And I think that's what happens to a lot of the relationships. It's like you share this vision, which is massive and it's beautiful. And it's like, okay, we're going to like conquer it together. But if I don't make it mine, then I can't be there with you.
As feedback for the men who are listening, one of the best things that's ever happened to me has been having a woman by my side that believes that I can make the vision a reality.
That would be me.
Yes, absolutely.
I know where you would go with that one.
and I think when people ask me like, how did you get your wife to be on page? Because we were not always on the same page.
That's right.
And we constantly say this. We remind people like we were not on the same page. We had two different visions.
That's
We had
right.
like I was building a business. You were taking care of the family.
That's right.
You were like, Raul, that's your thing that you're doing. Don't involve me in it. You didn't want to be part of it. And it took time for me to
Yes.
continue to
Yes.
paint the vision little by little, even when it was scared you. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of men are hearing this and say, well, maybe I can't share my vision with my wife. Maybe I can share. No, share it, but don't force her to be part of it if she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Don't force her to join you. Don't expect her to be your cheerleader. You have to be the best cheerleader. So the moment that I realized that nobody's gonna be cheering for me as hard as I have to cheer for myself, and the moment that you were not cheering for me,
You were
I
okay
was
with
still
it.
going out there
That's right.
and making that vision a reality. So it wasn't until
Right,
you
right.
start seeing some of the results, I'm like, you know what, let me see how I could be part of it. And then I had opened the doors, and you were welcome into now building the vision together. So a lot of men who are hearing this and thinking, well, my wife is not on board in my vision, or my wife doesn't care about what I do. My wife is not in the same page. Well, what about you including her in where you want to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years as a family? As you know, we always talk about our grandkids. What's the vision for our grandkids? I want our grandkids to have a legacy, right? We talk a lot
Right.
about legacy.
Right.
But if a man doesn't share that with his wife, or a man doesn't share that with his employees or his people, you are not going to attract the right talent, or the right women, or the woman that you have is not going to want to be part of it because you're not talking about it enough.
I agree. And I think, like you say about, I don't know, you just said something right now, like I want to keep the door open, or I'll continue to open the door. For me, it almost felt like you left the door open. For me, like when I was ready, that I would just peek in, like I didn't have to see where the keys are or find what room you were. It was just like that door was always open because you continue to come back and to paint the picture for me. And even though it scared the shit out of me, I was like, okay, well, he's still sharing it with me. I'm still part of it. I'm still the priority. It's not just his vision is the priority. So I think that makes a big difference. Like, come back and continue to share, continue to just show up for your wife, because that's what you did for me. And it took a long time. And you're right. Like we are that continuous voice of telling you, like, be patient, because it was not overnight. We've been together for a very long time. We've been through many different versions of who we've been together and apart. And I think, that's one of the biggest things is like, be patient with yourself, one. Be gentle with yourself and know that it takes time, and you'll get there.
One of the biggest issues that I see with men that are struggling in their relationships is that they are constantly waiting for their wives to validate who they are. They're waiting for their woman to validate them as a man, as a father, as a husband. When you know who you are, even if your wife doesn't validate you, even if your wife doesn't see it,
Yeah.
like, you have to have the certainty from within. And that certainty comes from having purpose. We talk a lot about purpose. When I lost my purpose, I was waiting for you to validate me. When I lost my purpose, I was waiting for the market to validate me. When I lost my purpose, I was waiting for the outside world to validate me, because I didn't have the confidence or the certainty within myself to know who I was. So when you talk about having the vision, I believe vision and purpose go hand in hand. If you have a vision, then you're living with purpose. And the purpose doesn't come from the outside world. The purpose comes from within. So I want you to talk a little bit about how did it impact you when I started working towards my vision and finding purpose? How did that ignite your desire to work on your purpose and your vision?
Again, I think that those things are like scary, right? Because you're in this place where, like, wow, you have a purpose and it's so big. And then what about my purpose? And then you start to question yourself. Like, is being a mom enough for me to have my purpose? Is wanting, to be like a business entrepreneur, is that like what I need to have? So I think like all those questions are okay to ask. And sometimes we think like purpose has to be so big, but wherever you are in your life, and this is what I tell women all the time, and I got to tell myself this all the time, it's like, wherever you are in your life, that's where God wants you right now. Allowing yourself to know like that purpose, for that reason you're there. allow that to sink in, to be so embodied and so embedded in you that it's like, okay, this is what I've made for right now, and what's next. But I think, purpose, again, like you said, like we're looking for purpose on an outside when purpose is really something on the inside. But if you go and you look inside and you're not fulfilled, you are dissatisfied, you're anxious, you're lonely, you're angry, then you feel like, I don't have a purpose. And it's okay to feel those emotions and those things on the inside, because that's part of the purpose. Does that make sense?
That's part of developing your purpose.
The purpose, yeah. And then once you realize, like, okay, well, what am I doing right now, right? Like, for instance, like when I was a mom, that for me was like, I'm going to be the best mom that there could be. And that voice inside of us is always like, that's not enough. That's not a big enough purpose. When I realized, like, me creating this other human beings that God gifted me with, I'm going to do the best that I can. And then for me today, the version of me to look back at who my kids are, it had a lot to do with me, like the way that I raised them, because I was in the household, right? Yes, you were there. We created them together. Yes, you are the father figure. But the mother figure is the one that's always like praising and giving life and giving order. And then to sit back and say, like, well, I did that. That was purpose, right? And I think a lot of women downplay that part.
Discount their role.
Discount it. And that part is so beautiful. So wherever you are, whether it's, running a business or being a mom or just being a wife or wherever you are, it's like, how do you take that in and really like, it's mine. This is my purpose.
So I was talking to a young kid. So I think it was 22, 23, a young entrepreneur. He was asking me, how do I become a millionaire? How do I make money? Please help me.
He wants to make money.
And I said to him, I said, if that's what you're chasing, you're never going to accomplish anything big. You're going to make some money, but if that's what you're chasing, you're always going to end up chasing. I said, when I started out as a bag boy at a supermarket, my first job, I wanted to be the best bag boy. Man, I was looking at, how to put everything together without breaking things. My first week, how to do it faster. My first week, I was getting tips. Yeah. There were people that were working there for months or years, never got a tip. Why? Because they were not doing it
with the enthusiasm and the love that you put into it.
Because that's what I look to do in everything that I do is, can I do it with purpose? Can I be the best at what I do? So then I started working in the corporate world and I became the best at it. And I started getting promotions. And then I got into sales, into real estate. And I started killing it. Why? Because everything that I did it behind purpose. The energy behind it has to have purpose.
Right.
When you burn out, it's because you lost that purpose, you lost that drive, you lost that pull. So therefore now the push gets harder. I talk all the time about having the pull. What's the vision? The pull is the vision. And the vision should give you purpose. But now a vision is not enough. Having a vision or having dreams or just thinking about or journaling what you're going to do or meditating is not going to get you nowhere unless you start putting the push behind it. And the action is the push. The push is what I'm going to do today to get closer to what I want. The push is, can I grind it out today? Can I be the best bag boy? Can I be the best salesperson? Can I be the best podcaster today?
Can I be the best husband?
Can I be the best husband, the best father? But today, with the little time that I have or this resource that I have, because most men, the reason that they lack purpose, because they're thinking that purpose is something that one day is going to happen. One day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to have that.
Right.
And that day never comes. So when you start looking at your purpose from within, like whatever you are, like you said, you're a mom, be the best mom. You're in sales, be the best in sales. Whatever it is, do it with purpose. That's why igniting your passion will lead to purpose.
Yes.
Because you can't be passionate about something that you don't believe in. You can't be passionate about something you don't love.
Yeah.
But if you have something that you're passionate about, you love something so much, then you're going to have that fire, that your purpose is to continue to develop that fire to be able to be the best version of yourself at that moment.
100%. 100% agree. And the reason why I love that part of like igniting, because that for me is this constant daily thing. It's like you don't stay ignited in anything, right? It's like the match always has to be stroked with something. So it's like this constant action that you have to do. It's a daily thing. And the daily reminders, the daily things that we want in life, that's from the action, right? Like we have to do something about it. And that's the beautiful part, that we get to choose to do that. That's a choice.
And the people, the couples, the businessmen that do great things are the ones who are igniting their passion daily. Every single day. We just had a leadership summit. We had a couple hundred guys come in. The main topic was the EDGE protocol. It was the first time that I actually shared the EDGE protocol into an environment like that we were. And I talked about what I do every single day. Every single day I have a protocol.
Yeah.
Like this morning we woke up, I have a protocol.
You don't deviate.
I don't deviate. We go to vacations, I have a protocol. Every single morning I have a protocol that I follow through to make sure I'm igniting myself, to make sure I am dialed in, no matter where we are.
Yeah.
Right? So the same thing, we have a protocol for date night. We have a protocol for going to church. So part of where most men fail is because they're just winging life. Most marriages fail because they're just winging it. Most businesses fail because they're winging it. No, you have to have a protocol to be able to follow through and to make sure that you're igniting your passion on the daily basis. You have a system and a process to follow. Otherwise, you're just going to go around in circles, chasing your own tail.
It kind of goes back to the vision. Like you need to know where you're going in order to have the action, to create the protocol. Because if you don't know where you're going, then what are we doing here? You know? Something that I wrote down that we heard, I don't know where it was, but it's like you have enough information, and we're in this world right now where there is information everywhere. Like you could pick up a book, or YouTube, whatever it is, like you could listen to this. But if you don't have that information and you find an encounter, like make it yours, embody it, and then you don't have the right tools to have that action plan. So it's kind of like, it's this trifecta of like the information, the encounter, and the action plan. If you have all those things together, it's like, how do you make this happen?
So that's something that we're going to actually work on this next couple of days with Inner Circle members, is how to create a vision for 2025, how to find a purpose, and how to find the blue ocean, right? So the first step is having a vision that, one, like you said, it scares you, but it is a vision that is not coming from your mind or your ego or just like, oh, I want to do this. No, a vision that comes from a deeper purpose, that you talk about serving, right?
Right.
The main question I love to ask people is like, who's going to suffer
if you don't
pay the price? Who's going to pay the price if you're not willing to pay the price, right? So if you have a vision of serving, like you start with that. It's starting with, why should I go for this? Why should I want to strive for that? Because if it's only for you to make money, like the young kid who asked me how to be a millionaire, I said, if you're only looking for yourself, you're going to limit God to work in your life, right? So for us who believe in God, our vision comes from what God could do through us, right? So that is the information that I'm looking to download through prayer, through meditation. We're going to take this man and woman through this process to really dial in what's that vision that's coming from a higher purpose, a higher version. Because we could all have goals and we could do all these things. I mean, a lot of people right now are waiting for the end of the year to set up the New Year's resolutions. No, now is the time. So if you want some actionable items from this podcast, take some time off during this weekend or during this week. What are some of the things that you want to prepare yourself for 2025? And who is going to be affected by them? Who are you going to serve?
Especially if you don't do it.
Especially if you don't step up, right? The second is how you said encounter it and like embody that and just feel it. So how does it feel like if you actually don't do it?
Yeah.
How does it feel? Like a lot of people don't understand that we are driven by emotions. We're not driven by logic. A lot of people think, well, logically, like I should do this. Logically, we should be healthier. Logically, we should have more money. Logically, this country should be a country of abundance, right? But because we're driven by emotions, a lot of us eat emotionally. We react emotionally. So emotional fitness is at the core of developing your vision. So what are some of the triggers that you could anticipate that will stop you from feeling your vision? Like, so what are some of the triggers, some of the patterns that you could catch yourself? Like for me, like this year, I wanted to read more books. That was my goal at the beginning of the year.
You're doing great.
I didn't read as many books as I thought I was going to read.
You read a lot.
Because my trigger has always been like, in the back of my mind, time. Like I don't have enough time. But I do have a lot of time. When I start looking at how do I cut some of the things that I have plenty of time.
Right.
I just choose to do other things that don't serve me as opposed to reading the books that I need to read.
So for me, encountering is more like embodying, right? Like putting myself in the situation of that future self. Like, what is it going to feel like? And I take all the emotion with me and I put myself in that situation. So when I get to that place, it's like, oh, I've already been here. Like I've seen it. I have envisioned it enough. I've stepped into that feeling so much that it's rightfully mine. And because if we don't see it, I think for us women, like we're so busy with everything else that we don't take the time to slow down and to say like, well, God, what do you want from me? Like, how do you want me to show up? Where do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? When we slow down, when I slow down and I get to that place, it doesn't scare me as much.
You know, a question that I ask myself when I'm creating a vision is, why not me? Why not me? And if God is putting something in your heart right now, why not you? Like, who are we to limit God?
That's right.
Who are you to tell God that that vision is not for you?
It's too big or too scary or
so
yeah.
when I started 10 years ago, the Next Level Experience, like I didn't believe that God could do what he's doing right now in my life. But little by little, I began to believe. So in every single morning in my prayer or meditation, I ask God to help me with my unbelief. Help me believe the vision that you have for me. Help me embody that. Help me become that man that you are putting in my mind to become. But if you don't have a faith or a prayer life that anchors that version of you, you're expecting the world to validate who you are as a man. And eventually, the culture that we live in is constantly going to beat you down and sort of knock you out. Unless you have a deeper faith, unless you have a good woman by your side that's going to remind you constantly, because that's what you do for me. You constantly remind me. You're a constant reminder of like the best is yet to come. And that's the pull. That's the pull. That's what pulls me to become better. That's what pulls me. There's been some challenging times in the past. This year has not been easy. It has not been easy for our kids. It has been easy for our business. It has been easy for us. But every single day, you inspire me to become better. You inspire me to level up. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that the best is yet to come.
I love that. It's a good saying.
So thank you. Thank you. I know I left you speechless. So
there's nothing more I can say to that.
So to close this out, this podcast, we're excited. We're re-energized. We wanna continue to bring you content that makes you continue to fight the battle in your business, the battle in your marriage, and most important, the internal battle that we all have, because we are a war. We are a war between the version of ourselves that believes that there is a higher purpose and the version of ourselves that believes that we're not worthy enough. So the internal battle that we have is to make sure that we feed one version or the other. And hopefully this podcast will inspire you to feed the version of you that God wants you to be.
That's right. We are recommitting to coming back and igniting our passion and just showing up for the ones that are listening, that have been following us. We want to thank you for the love and the support. We've gotten so many texts and so many just cute little messages like, where are we? What are we doing? When are we coming back? We're back. We are recommitting to the Ignite Your Passion podcast. If you have any questions, if you want us to talk about a certain topic, just, chime into this conversation. Let us know. We're here to really pour our hearts, because Raul and I go through so much. And there is so much wisdom throughout the years that we've had. And, we're just here to share our hearts, share our life, and be that
by
open
no
book.
means, this is not a perfect relationship. By no means, we're not perfect.
No.
I hope that if we ever mess up, you're kind with us as we continue to give you just our best.
That's right.
Like real, raw conversations about shit that we go through in the weekly basis. So we're back, baby. Ignite Your Passion podcast. See you next time. Learn it, live it, experience it.
Love life.
If you like this podcast, make sure you check out the previous episodes here.
And don't forget to subscribe,
because the best is yet to come.